How are we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here. Welcome back to another video. So we took a look at skinning yesterday. Today we're going to have a look at herbalism and mining. I thought it made sense to sort of round off and cover some of the more material focused, the gathering professions as they're often referred. As a better, the better understanding we have of materials, the easier it will be to kind of get a feel of how the crafting professions work. I did notice I was starting to look through them and I was like, ooh, what's that material? And if you don't know the materials very well, it's hard to get a sense of what's going on. So herbalism and mining, I'm going to wombo combo these two together because under normal circumstances, most people will run herbalism and mining on the same character. So they're dealing with it at the same time anyway. So I'll treat it almost as one profession, even though they are still strictly two separate professions. So let's talk for 30 seconds then about the materials that we're going to be getting. So refulgent copper ore, our basic default ore. Nodes are all over the place. I've stopped off at one of the nodes. We'll talk about the specifics in a minute, but the nodes are flipping huge. I don't know whether this is intended or not, but the ore nodes especially are absolutely massive. Goblin for scale here on a drake. Like, the thing is literally the same size I am. It's humongous. Don't know why. So we have refulgent copper ore is the basic one. We have two uncommon ores with umbral tin and brilliant silver. And then we have a dazzling thorium. Now, although it's got the thorium name, which many of you will remember from way back in vanilla potentially, I've not actually found nodes for these. This feels to be a sort of a nullstone equivalent for if you've been herbing and mining in the War Within. These are quite rare. They proc off any node so far. I have had them off copper. I'm pretty sure I've had them from even copper nodes. So it doesn't need to be the rarer nodes to get these, but they're rare, right? Similar to nullstones. On the herb front, we have Tranquility Bloom is our basic herb. We then have 4 uncommon herbs with Manna Lily, Argent Leaf, Azurroot, and Sanguithorn, and then we have the rare Nocturnal Lotus. Same scenario, I've not found actual Nocturnal Lotus nodes, but is a bonus proc off any of the other nodes. It's worth noting, quality on all of these materials, there is only 2 qualities. I've mentioned this, I think, in nearly all of my overview videos, but it's a big thing, so I'm making sure I mention it at least once in every video. We are now dealing with only 2 qualities, which they still have the same icons as we're used to in the War Within and Dragonflight, but this time round, Blizzard are calling them normal and high quality materials. Throughout my travels, I've managed to level both of the professions up a little bit. I've nearly got mining finished, and I'm sort of two-thirds of the way through herbalism. I am yet to find a single high quality or quality 2 herb even. It appears, now this is just a balancing thing, but it does appear that you need to be quite well equipped before you do start seeing these higher nodes. So you're probably going to need to level all the way to 100 and maybe spend some knowledge points and maybe get your profession tools and things in order. Profession tools are a thing, once again. You might need to get a few pieces of the puzzle together before you even start seeing these higher quality ores. That might sort of incentivize how you approach maybe week 1 or the first season with your herbing and mining. We'll talk about the spec trees a little bit in a bit. But what I do want to do really more than anything is just go through some of my notes. This does mean that the video is maybe not going to be the most structured and the most organized that I've ever done, but I just want to make sure I cover as much of the things that I have found. I've spoke about the fact that the nodes are absolutely huge. My notes are on Discord, by the way. Shameless promo time. My notes are on Discord in the Herbing and Mining channel, so you can jump into the Discord and have a read through my personal notes as well. And there's some extra little bonus videos in there for people as well. The nodes are absolutely massive. Experience can be gained from gathering. This is worth pointing out and is something that I would have easily forgot. But this character actually leveled pretty much all the way to level 83 just by doing a little bit of leveling. So once again, entirely feasible for you to run around and pick up some herbs, pick up some ore and level up at the same time, which is nice. It's always a bonus. All materials coming 2 qualities. We've spoken about that. Epic mulching can guarantee higher quality herbs. Okay, so yeah, off the back of the fact that quality 2 materials might be quite difficult to get early on, Herbalism has reintroduced its mulching feature, which from memory has actually been a thing for both Dragonflight and the War Within, but has often been kind of a bit of a meh, you kind of ignore it. This time round, with the fact that empowered mulch, you can take 20 of your very, very basic herb, your Tranquility Bloom, and you can generate an empowered mulch, which will guarantee high quality herbs on your next gathered midnight herb. Now, I assume if you wombo combo this with like an overload ability, there's the possibility to get some pretty fantastic quantity of higher tier herbs, or maybe even thinking about it, Herbalism has lush nodes. They're called rich ore nodes, just those nodes that little bit bigger and have usually a few more pieces of materials attached to them. A lush version of a node plus an empowered mulch to get the higher quality ones could net you an awful lot of gold very, very quickly. So I'm intrigued to see if this mulch feature is more impactful this time. But you do have to spec into it. It's worth noting that to get access to this, it is within the botany tree, and it has its own dedicated spec point here. 40 points in this to get really good at it and unlock that empowered mulch. So this might be something that's worth testing in a bit more detail on the beta, just to see how powerful this becomes, and just to see if it's going to be worth speccing into early or not. There are lots of options here. There are lots of options, but I thought I'd sort of focus on it a little bit because it's one of the most reliable ways, I think, to get the higher quality herbs at least. Unfortunately, there isn't an equivalent for the ore. There isn't an equivalent for mining, but herbalists will have a deterministic way of getting some higher quality stuff from time to time as well. Special motes will drop from the empowered nodes, and there are 4 varieties. Yeah, so now is probably a good time to talk about the overloading feature. Overloading is possible once again with both Herbalism and mining. Overloading is the art of finding a empowered node. They have prefixes to them. There's 4 different prefixes you might stumble across. And for midnight, it looks like each zone has a specific prefix for its empowered nodes. We are in Eversong Woods. This is the first leveling zone. There are 3 more coming. We have Zulaman, we have Voidstorm, and we have Harandar. It does appear that each prefix is specific to each zone. So I've only been able to find light fused ones so far. And if we do, for demonstration purposes, a little overload on the infused deposit here, you'll see it spits out a bunch of motes. We're used to this mechanic by now. We stand in the swirlies, motes drop from the sky, and I gather up a bunch of extra motes of light. And then, of course, we can always tap the node itself for the normal goodies that it should provide, tin ore, and then a couple of the motes of light itself. Motes are going to be big business in midnight, the way that things look. Anybody that played Dragonflight will probably remember Rousings and Awakened. These were the elementals in Dragonflight, and these motes feel as if they're going to be about as impactful, maybe even more impactful than we saw back in Dragonflight. There's 4 different motes. I've found some motes of light from nodes within this zone. There are some motes of pure void, and there are 2 other ones, which are, if I bring up WowDB's website here, we have Mote of Primal Energy and Mote of the Wild. Like I said, these seem to be specific to each zone, so dependent on how much these end up being valued at, depending on how expensive or cheap these are on the auction house, that might determine where you choose to go do your herbing and mining. And I really do think that these are going to be big business, simply because they're used in flipping everything. Every time I've taken a look at any one of the crafting professions, these are all over the place. And in quantity as well, in reasonably high quantity. Now, this is probably a topic for another video, but historically, farming these sorts of things is also possible off mobs as well. You can just kill mobs and get these occasionally. Even if that becomes true in midnight, which I can't confirm because I'm going to be honest, I've only had a few days to test these things so far. But they have made loot changes to sort of prevent how impactful 2x4 hyperspawn farming can be. Now, if I've just said a bunch of words that have completely gone over your head, don't worry about it. I'll talk about this in more detail in the future. But my early suspicions are that these moats are going to be big business, and I actually think that this empowered system might be something that is where you focus on a lot at the beginning. I think the fact that I did all of this herbing and mining, leveling up both of my professions within the one zone, and only amassed a total of 153 moats, which is significantly less than the total herbs and ore that I've got, means these things are going to be quite expensive compared to your regular materials. High quality materials might still in theory be worth a little bit more to make up for this, but trust me when I say I think moats are going to be big business, and we'll be talking about these a lot more in the sort of more deep dive of the profession overviews. So yeah, 4 different moats, you get them from the overpowered nodes. The mechanic is going to be slightly different depending on what the prefix is on the node. Like I said, those little swirlies is just for the light forged ones. In the upcoming weeks, I'll get to look at the other zones. We've only actually got this first zone to play with on the alpha this week. We're not allowed in the other ones yet, but when I get access to them, we can find the other prefixes on the nodes and see what they do. So we'll look at that maybe in a beta deep dive video sort of thing. But so that's overloading. The cooldown on overloading is gross. It's a 12-hour cooldown, but every time you hit a node or you get a little bit taken off that cooldown. So I was actually finding I could use the overload ability a few times an hour without putting any spec points into the tree. There are, for both herbalism and mining, areas where you can put points into the tree to improve your overloading ability. Taking some time, you may have noticed my health got absolutely tanked when I hit that node. It puts a debuff on you by default, but you can spec into light fused, and instead of taking damage, it actually then turns it into a heal. So there are some spec trees that just sort of change the way that these nodes interact with you from a gameplay perspective. And of course, putting points in this will mean that you'll be better at them and you'll get more from them as well. So this could be quite an impactful path to go. You can spec into light fused, wild, primal, and void bound, one for each different sort of prefix on the nodes. And there's of course pretty much always a similar pattern. I've not unlocked the overload tree for herbalism yet, but there's a similar pattern within herbalism that you can get good at those empowered nodes to extract more from them and to maybe turn some of the negative aspects of them positive, which is kind of cool. Gathering whilst flying is my next point here. Gathering whilst flying will still need you to be spec'd into, but it is possible with both herbalism and mining. I believe meticulous mining is where it is. Yes, a full, 40 points into the main node in meticulous mining will give you the ability to mine whilst mounted. And in herbalism, is it in botany? Yes, the same scenario, the 40 points. So it's equaled out this time. 40 points in herbalism, 40 points in mining will get you mounted gathering, which is always a nice quality of life. Of course, druids have a slightly easier time of this naturally. There are also mounts like the sky golem that you can use as well, short term, or if you're not a druid. But it's entirely possible to mount up and do some gathering as well. Leveling to 100 will only take a short time, but never once did I find a higher quality item is my next note. We've kind of spoke about that a little bit. The reality for me is that actually leveling the profession, as far as herbalism and mining is concerned, is like, it's a thing you do once. It's a thing you do on the first day you pick the professions up. It's probably not going to take you more than an hour or two to level these up. As far as leveling the professions go, the gathering ones are super easy. But it is still going to be important to you to get your profession tools in order, because they're going to give you these secondary stats, which will improve certain aspects for you. What's actually quite nice this time round is, I know the secondary stats are often quite confusing to some people, and especially when it comes to like remembering what they do. This time round, they've put these appendixes in the profession in the profession lists, so you can quickly come to these if you kind of forget what something does. If you're like me and can never remember what finesse actually does, I don't know why, maybe I'm dumb. You can come here and you can look at finesse, and now it at least tries to tell you roughly what it will do. Boosting finesse, specialized gathering at certain nodes can boost finesse related to those resources. Finesse increases the chance of gathering additional resources. Finesse can be increased by equipping profession tools and accessories. It gives you a little bit of an overview to what the stats do. Perception giving you rare resources. And deafness increasing your gathering speed. It's nice that they've chosen to put these. Just sort of helping train people with stuff in game is good. Weekly quests and knowledge points. Let's talk about this really quickly. Thalassian Phoenix Tail is your Herbalism weekly discovery. It's a system where you get a few little bonus items per week. I have not found any of these on the alpha so far. My suspicion is they just haven't added all of this stuff in. I've not found any weekly quests yet. I certainly haven't found any catch-up system yet, but this is literally week 1 of the alpha. This is just a very first look. But the point of this is that it is a similar system that they've used previously. You'll probably get a default quantity of these per week. There's a good chance there will be like a couple of weekly quests for a few bonus knowledge points. And then I'm going to assume that there's a catch-up system coming as well. It's just not been added yet. Yeah, so that's really the basics of herbalism and mining so far. Now I know I didn't fly around and do much in terms of showcasing what it is, but as I mentioned, there's only actually one prefix to the nodes that I've been able to play with in this first zone. It feels like each zone has its own one. Treasures actually is probably something to just point out. I have stumbled across a couple of what appear to be first-time treasures again. So you'll likely be able to get yourself a big boost of knowledge points early on by just flying around and picking those up. I think in the War Within it was about 24 points you could get like in 10 minutes if you wanted to, which will give you a bit of a kickstart to your profession as well. But that's fundamentally it. There's nothing too much that's changed. We've got a few new materials to chase after. Similar system to what we have come to know pretty well. There's not too much more to it. I will do deep dives going into a little bit more detail about potential builds and spec directions and stuff. We'll do that in the beta, but I hope this is enough information to get you up and running now. I'm going to leave it there. I'm trying to make sure that these videos don't go too long, but of course I have been trying to wombo combo 2 in this one. So give the video a like if you enjoyed it, boys and girls. I've still got some of the major profession. We've still got jewel crafting, leatherworking, blacksmithing, tailoring, inscription. We've still got some of the big crafting professions to get through. I will promise to get those out to you soon. We've got Remix in the next day. In fact, by the time you watch this, there's a good chance Remix might already be out. Come say hi if we're streaming Remix. Maybe we'll go run a dungeon or a raid or something together. But I'm rambling now. I need to get on to looking at some other stuff. Give the video a like, subscribe if you're new around here. Check out the Discord. There's a bunch of info on the alpha on the Discord if you haven't already. Links are down below. Enjoy the rest of your day, boys and girls. Until next time. Peace.